Welcome, dear friends, to the 60th class of the Bhagavad Gita. We are studying chapter 8. We started chapter 8 in the last class. We studied from shlokas number 1 to 6. So let's begin our class by revising what we studied in those shlokas very, very briefly. So in shloka number 1 and 2, Arjuna posts lists of questions to Arjuna. What are these questions that Arjuna is putting up, and why is he putting up those questions? Because in the ending shlokas of chapter 7, Krishna mentions a few terms which are technical, and he talks about karma, and he talks about how to become one with him, how to get liberated by thinking of him at the passing moment. So that is so many things Krishna has mentioned. So Arjuna naturally comes up with questions. And what are these questions? These questions are: what is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? What is Adi Yagya? What is Adi Deva? What is Adi Bhuta? What is karma? And then he says, how and in what manner is the Lord known by the self-controlled at the time of death? So in shloka number 3 onwards, Krishna starts to answer these questions. The first question is, what is Brahman? And Krishna says, the indestructible supreme spirit is Brahman. The infinite eternal truth is Brahman. And the answer to what is Adhyatma? The Adhyatma is the essence of the individual soul. So now in different philosophies, this is seen differently. So for example, if we talk of Advaita Vedanta, in that Adhyatma and Brahman would be the same thing because the soul is same as spirit. If we take the Ramanuja's philosophy of Vishishta Advaita, in which his philosophy is that we are a soul which is part of the vast infinite. So according to that, that little soul is separate, but it is part of the large infinite reality. And if we think of what Krishna is trying to say here in this shloka, so to gather that understanding, let's visualize an ocean. Let's think of the ocean as Brahman. Now, an ocean has both parts, that is the grave, still part underneath, and it has a superficial part which runs in waves. So the truth of both the ocean and wave is one, and that is water. So the part of the ocean that is going to form a wave, that is Adhyatma. So that is what the difference is between Brahman and Adhyatma. So now each wave, now think of a situation, and this is what Master explained. Think of 3 consecutive bottles, one inside the other, and then think that there is water inside the innermost bottle. And this set of 3 bottles is floating in the ocean. Now, the truth is that the water inside of the innermost bottle and the water in the ocean, they are just the same in a sense. But the water inside the bottle is separated by 3 layers. And those 3 layers are explained in shloka number 4 by Krishna, where he says that Adi Bhuta is the essence of the physical world, Adi Deva is the essence of the astral world, and Adi Yagya is the causal, the Karan from which they appear as separate bodies. So these are different layers of us. So now let's think of ourselves, Brahman, or the vast infinite spirit, which has got separated, appears to be separated in these 3 bottles of our bodies. That is why the body is called a pot. It is a pot which contains the soul. Now the pot has 3 layers. The outermost is the physical gross body, which is the Adi Bhuta. Inside it is the energy pattern, the blueprint, the prana that is making this physical body enlivened, and that is the astral body is the Adi Daiva. And then there is behind that Adi Daiva is also the cause of the Adi Daiva and the Adi Bhuta, which is the Karan, the Adi Yagya. And inside that is our true essence, which is pure awareness, which is the same as Brahman, which is the same as Shiva, which is the same as spirit, and that one reality. And that is why the scripture says, thou art that. So if we identify with the Adi Bhuta, we think we are the physical body. If we identify with the Adi Deva, we think we are only the astral body. And if we go deeper and deeper, unless we transcend all the three bodies, we do not understand our essence as the same of the ocean of existence, consciousness, and bliss. And therefore, all the yogic methods that are taught, especially Kriya Yoga, which is the airplane route to God, is supposed to make you feel and experience firsthand directly that you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the prana, you are that one essence, you are that infinite soul, which is expressing through these different layers. Then another question that Arjuna has asked in the first two shlokas is, what is karma? So again, Master explains that karma is to be understood at two levels. One is the cosmic karma. When the stillness of God wants to create, that creation itself is an action. That act of creating through the cosmic Om vibration, that is the cosmic karma. Therefore, Om at that level can be called as karma. But that then we come to the individual level. At individual level, whatever we are thinking, whatever we are doing, whatever we are speaking, all of that is individual karma. All movement is karma in a sense, and that stillness is the soul. And we have to transcend karma, we have to transcend our ego and come back to the oneness. So continuing, in karma, what Master beautifully mentioned here, he said that an animal's life is predestined because it's only instinctively following the laws of nature, but man's is not. This he's pointed out specifically when we were talking about karma. He specifically points out that your life, our life is not predestined. We do have free choice, and we must exercise that free choice to go towards righteousness, because righteousness is then that will take us to happiness and then to higher bliss. And we must go towards inner freedom, and to go towards inner freedom, we have to follow all the spiritual paths that have been mentioned to us. We have to follow the guidelines of the scriptures, and especially we have to follow the footsteps of a God realized guru. Okay, now we come to what happens in shloka number 5. In shloka number 5, Krishna is clearly saying, he says, he enters my being who thinks of me at the hour of passing, when the body is being abandoned. And he says this is a sanchayam, this is the truth beyond doubt. So this here he has directly said that if you think of me at the hour of passing, you will attain me. But we know that it is possible only to think of God at a particular moment if we have practiced to do so. That means our whole life is going to be, the way has to be set beforehand. Our level of alertness has to be with each breath. Now you may say it is difficult. Yes, it is difficult. Who said it was going to be easy? But is living this life of all the trials and tribulations, and then coming here again and again through womb life, through growing years, then going through the decaying body, the sick body and the dead body, and then all the crying and the wailing, is that easy? Even that is not easy. So, which is easier, to find freedom, eternal freedom once and for all? It can appear to be easier to the heart, because all of us here have come to a point where we are, in our mind, you get fed up of the same loop-like suffering of this world. So therefore, man should be vigilant, Master says, till the last breath. If a yogi has trained himself to restrain the senses and to still his mind in meditation, he will be able to unite his consciousness with God at the time of death. Then in shloka number 6, he talks about, Krishna says to Arjuna, he says, "O Arjuna, that thought with which a dying man leaves his body determines his next state of being." So first he says, if you think of me, you will come to me. But he knows most people don't think of him. Then he gives the alternative that whatever you are thinking, that thought at the moment of passing will determine where you are going. And in the explanation to this shloka, Master, he says that before a soul is leaving the body, what happens is he's shown in a flash the things that happened in his life. In a flash, in a moment, a few seconds, he is able to see. And then because in his life so many things have happened, he is attracted to a particular part of his life, or a particular emotion surfaces immediately in that moment, or suddenly a forgotten desire it comes comes to the conscious mind at the fore when that flash is happening. And then that person leaves the body with that particular emotion or that memory or that desire or that attachment, and then accordingly he is born, his further state of being is determined. So for example, just like common examples, let us take. So for example, if a person, at the moment of dying is thinking of a romantic relationship that he had when he was young, and he was so emotionally invested and involved in that relationship, and then that passion just suddenly comes to his mind, then because that passion is there in his mind, his next birth, not only next birth, master says that frequency will determine where in the astral universe that person will go. And then when that karma is worked out, again he will have to come to earth to fulfill all those desires. So again he will have to go through multiple lifetimes of, let's say, romantic relationships, till he finds out in the end that even human love is a delusion. Now again, let's think of a case where a person is very, very attached to his money. And while the flash of his life is happening before his eyes, he's thinking of his investments, his properties, bank balance, of people who cheated him, and of the way he made money and how he was clever and cunning, and he maybe looted money, or theft was there, or whatever was there. But his thing is money, money, money. Then of course he's going to go to a frequency where everything is going to be transactional. Everything will be transactional, and once that happens, after that, when he comes back to earth, again he will have to live a life where he will have to understand what is the purpose of earning money. Is the money he is earning bringing happiness to all? Is he able to serve all with the money? And otherwise, what is the purpose? Money is supposed to bring us happiness, and not only, and our happiness depends on the happiness of everybody around us. So has our passion about money fulfilled the higher dharma, higher purpose? Till we learn this lesson, again that person will have to keep doing rounds of these rebirths. So therefore, now here important thing is, let's prepare ourselves. If we want moksha, if we want to enter the being of Krishna, the omnipresent Krishna consciousness, then we have to practice thinking of Krishna all the time. There is no choice. Nobody is giving you any choice, basically. If you want a choice, of course. But if you've thought of moksha, then there is no other choice. If you're really serious about merging your being with Krishna's being, then you might as well not have any option or choice. You might as well be serious and strict and firm with yourself. But of course, that firmness and strictness comes with an open and loving heart. So here, a balance of the heart and the head is very, very important. Only with your intellectual fixation, nothing will happen, because the grace of God is, magnetized to us when we have the love of the heart, which has to be naturally present. So Master says, if a person sees a flash of evil actions, suddenly guilt might come up. If he's been a good person, then suddenly a sense of goodness will come into him. And if he has too much in his material activities, then all those thoughts will come, and he will be taken into that realm, not into infinite Krishna being. And then he will have to live all those cycles of birth and death till he finally understands the truth. Now, we all know about the story that Master tells, that, a good person was dying, and then God asked him that, are you good? Are you happy? Then the person says, oh, I wish I was more wealthy. So next life is more wealthy, but then he doesn't have a partner. And then that life, when he's leaving the body, God asks him, are you good? Were you happy? He said, oh, it would have been good if I had both wealth and health, and I would have a good partner. And then God says, so be it. So in the next life, he has health, wealth, and a good partner, but the partner dies early. So then he has not put that question in with God. So in that life, again, when he's leaving his body, God comes and asks him, so are you happy? Are you satisfied? He says, oh, it would have been so good if my partner would have lived long. And so in the next life, he has health, he has wealth, he is also a God-oriented, and he has a partner, but the partner lives so long, she becomes so old that this man is now fantasized with his new secretary who is very young, and then he chooses her beauty over the wisdom of his wife, and then that girl is obviously in love with someone else. She elopes with all his money. So in brief, this story Master himself has narrated so many times. I just did it in a very brief way. And then at the end of all of this, then when God asks him, okay, so are you satisfied? So this man says, no, God, now I'm not going to get trapped. Now I know that everything this world has to offer is a trap, is a dead end, and it never gives complete satisfaction. There is always a loophole in there. Therefore, now I want only you. So have we come, we must ask ourselves, have we come to that point where we can say, Lord, I want only thee, Lord, I want only thee. Or at least we can say, I want to want only thee, Lord, I want to want only thee. And because unless we come to this point, we will not put in the effort that Krishna is asking to put, to put in. We will not use our free choice to choose God every time. And therefore, but once we do, then these steps become very, very easy and clear. Of course, we have to organize our entire life. Just saying, I want you, Lord, if it is not sufficient, then you have to organize your entire life, each day of your life, each breath, each thought has to be, with consciousness, with alertness. It has to, have to live your life with a lot of alertness and self-effort. Then Master goes on to say, he says, a human being leading a meaningless and mechanical existence or an evil life. Little does he realize that on the last day, he will bring judgment upon himself. So you look at the people around, they have no idea what they are doing, why they are doing, where they are going, and then what is going to happen to them. So that's why I say this repeated number of times, that there are two major delusions under which people live. Number one is that everybody thinks nobody is watching their actions. On the contrary, every action is registered in the ether. And the second delusion people think is this is the only life. If these two delusions are corrected, almost all human behavior will be corrected. But people are just thinking, I'm doing this, nobody's watching, I will steal this little bit. Who's watching? Nobody's seeing me. You are being watched everywhere. There are eyes everywhere. So those eyes are not like the physical eyes of a human, but those are the eyes of infinite awareness. This universe is intelligent. Every atom of this universe is intelligent. Our own thoughts and emotions carry intelligence, and all that data is registered in the matrix of the universe. And then all the actions that we do will have to come, we have to come face to face with the results of those actions. And whether we realize it or not, whether we like it or we're not, whether we want it or not, on the day of judgment, as in when we are leaving our bodies, our fate will be decided by what we have done on earth, while on earth, how we have thought, what we have done, how we have treated our fellow brothers and sisters, and what we have thought inside, and have we remembered our creator, or we are too busy with the sense pleasures of this world. So now Master gives a exit from this. He says, by non-attachment, the yogi dissolves all inclinations and desires of his heart. And when death arrives, then the cosmic Om sounds ushers him into the transcendental God. So what is the solution to all of this? Is to practice non-attachment throughout life. And so what will happen? If there is non-attachment to people, to situations, or to everything, then when you are shown the movie of your life at the end, your heart will not jump out to a particular passion. And therefore, you will not be taken forcefully against your will to another astral universe or birth where you do not want to go. So to be able to be, merge with the infinite, you have to leave attachment to objects. And that is the only way, Vairagya. And Abhyas, of course, we have been saying that practicing the presence of God while we are living is important, because only then we will be able to feel the presence of God at the passing moment. So, and detachment does not mean that you lead a dumb, a slow, an uninterested life and become bored and, no. Non-attachment means you are wise, that you already know the temporary nature of this world, and that you know that attachment will cause you more suffering. Therefore, you do your part with full enthusiasm and willingness, knowing all of this is impermanent, and all of these situations, if I'm not attached to them, but I do them with interest, then not only will I enjoy, but also will I not create any karmic tendencies with me. So that is non-attachment, not being, just being aloof from activities, like so many people who go to the Himalayas or the forest because they don't want to indulge in any daily duties or responsibilities. That is not non-attachment. Non-attachment is an inner renunciation. It has nothing to do what you do on the outer basis, in your outer life. Okay. Now let's come to shloka number 7. Okay, just give me a moment. Right. So, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpitam mano buddhim amev vaishyasya sanshayam. इसलिए सदा मेरा स्मरण करो और कर्म के युद्ध में स्वयं को कार्यरत करो, अपना मन और बुद्धि मुझे समर्पित करो, इस प्रकार निस्संदेह तुम मुझे प्राप्त करोगे. Therefore, remember me always and engage thyself in the battle of activity. Surrender to me thy mind and thine understanding. Thus, without doubt, shalt thou come unto me. This is a beautiful verse. And if we just remember this shloka, this is enough for liberation. So, and why do we say so? So he says in the first lines of this shloka is May Arpita Mano Buddhim. So what he's saying, and then he says, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. So mam is me. Anusmara means remember. Yudhyacha means fight the battle of life. So Yudhyacha means and. So here he is not saying just remember me. He is saying you have to do your duties, you have to fulfill your responsibilities. Life is indeed a battlefield. You have to fight the battle of life, but you must remember me as you are doing so. And this is, so basically this shloka, it combines bhakti and it combines karma together. It's very beautifully given. So now the question may arise, how do I do that? How is it possible for me to do my duties and yet think of the Lord all the time? So yes, it is possible. And Ramakrishna gives beautiful examples for this. He says, just like, when a child is running around a pillar and suppose he is revolving very, very fast, his one hand is always holding on to the pillar. And maybe in the other hand, let's say he's holding a fan which revolves, with the paper fan which moves when there is wind. So with one hand, the child is holding on to the pillar. The other is the way the child is just going around and around and around. He knows if he leaves the pillar, he will fall down. So this is how we should play in the world, but our one hand should be holding on to God. Then another example Ramakrishna gives, he says, just see the village girls. Now they have multiple pots of water on their head and maybe a couple of pots in their hands, but they are fully aware of those water pots and they do not allow even a drop of water to overflow from them. And yet they get so comfortable with that and they are gossiping about the village people amongst themselves. So they are easily doing two tasks, means going about talking about other people and simultaneously holding very still to the pots of water over their head. So that's holding still to God is very important. Another example is the story of Suka, the son of Vedavyasa, who comes to for training to Raja Janak. And the first lesson King Janak gives him is to be able to hold a lamp filled with oil, so a lighted lamp of oil, and he is asked to go through the entire palace without spilling even one drop of oil, and simultaneously he has to note in detail everything that there is in the palace. Now, this is a difficult task. So this is what we are supposed to do. At all times, we should have remembrance of God in our mind, and simultaneously we should do duties. Now, you may say it is difficult, it is not possible. Of course, it is possible, because just check your own mind, because at one given point in time, most of the time you are thinking multiple thoughts. So instead of thinking multiple thoughts, let one thought be a thought of God and the other thought be of your work. So what this means is you have to be alert about what you're thinking. You are not to be absent-minded. Most people are going around this world half asleep. They are not alert to what is happening. And if you want to find freedom, if you want moksha, if you are an aspiring yogi, then you must be very watchful about what are the thoughts that are crossing your mind. And then to be able to consciously replace all those thoughts with the name of God, or just the feeling of the presence of God, and then using one line of thought to do your work. And then Ramakrishna says, once you've done with your work, then hold God with both hands. So why hold God with both hands? Why not get involved in this world? Because you've already tasted and tried this world, and you have found that it gives a lot of pain, and it is always a dead end. It promises to give you pleasure, but it doesn't. So you have trained your mind to think of this. Every time you want to run out for a sense pleasure, remind yourself, oh, last time I did this, it did not give me that pleasure. The pleasure that it promised, is always less. Whatever you get is always less than what is promised. On the other hand, when you think of God and when you start meditating, you get multiple times of what you expected. In fact, if I were to share my experience personally, I had read that, if I meditate, then one can be very blissful and very peaceful, and you gain some wisdom. But when actually you start meditating and actually you start doing Kriya Yoga, the amount of bliss that you get, the amount of peace that is even beyond your expectation and imagination. So when you go towards God, you get much more than expected. But when you go towards the world promises whatever pleasure, you get much, much less than it. And that also is filled with pain and suffering. Okay. So what does Guruji says? He says the wise devotee so deeply meditates in the bliss of Kriya Yoga that he does not forget the blessed consciousness during daily battle of activity. So for a Kriya Yogi, if you are practicing meditation daily, you are feeling some level of peace and bliss every day. Now, if you are a regular meditator, you know that peace will overflow from your meditation and come into your daily life. And you are to carry that peace consciously into your daily activities. And automatically, so simultaneously, you're holding on to the peace and bliss, which is God Himself. And simultaneously, you are doing your duty. So it is definitely possible. Then he says that when the devotee is always needs to act with his whole consciousness absorbed in God. So when the devotee is able at will to focus all his consciousness towards God. So once your work has finished, as Ramakrishna said, you must hold the feet of Kali with both hands. So once your daily work is done and you are sitting back in meditation, then unite all your being with the infinite peace within. And this comes with training. This does not come overnight. Now, a new person who is starting to meditate and he says, oh, I'm not feeling any peace. Rather, I'm feeling more restless because all the thoughts have suddenly surfaced from my subconscious mind. No, that is not the situation we are talking about. We are talking about long, persistent, consistent, perseverant, patient, and practice. With daily meditation, regular meditation, sincere aspiration, all of this is felt. The peace that is promised by the scriptures, the bliss that is promised by the Guru and by the scriptures is experienced by each and every soul who practices yoga the way he has been advised to. So yes, what is the teaching of this shloka? Think of me and fight the battle of life. So this is for all of us. And that's why Arjuna could have easily said, no, now you're talking of soul and you're saying that all wisdom is to know that I'm already one with you and so on. So what is the need of, doing all of this? But Krishna is very clear. Think of me and fight the battle of life. Okay. This brings us to shloka number 8. Another interesting thought about this shloka is that he says, surrender to me your mind and intellect. So what do we mean by surrendering our mind and intellect? Surrendering our mind means having no other desire but the desire of God. And even when, difficult times come in our life, and there may be happy times and there are difficult times, the yogi will say that, I surrender to thee, Lord, because all these are coming from you. So understanding that God is the doer, and understanding that having any other desire other than the Lord is going to give me pain eventually, that is going to be the surrender of the mind. And surrender of the intellect is just not being fixed in your own opinions that I am right, I am righteous, and what I know, that is the only truth, and so on. So offering your ego, offering your intellectual opinion to God, and coming in instead of those opinions and fixed beliefs, we come to attunement with the Guru. We come to the scripture so that we know what is the ideal. And only when we can attune ourselves with the Guru and receive divine guidance can we actually understand what is trying to happen. And therefore we must surrender to the Lord, whatever we are thinking, whatever we are feeling. And most of the times we are not understanding what is happening in life. So let's surrender our knowing as well as the unknowing to God. Let us surrender our opinion as well as what we think of is truth to God, and open our hearts and minds to receive what He is trying to tell us. Okay. Shloka number 8. Abhyas yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagaminā paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan. हे पार्थ अर्जुन, जिसका मन योग द्वारा स्थिर होकर ईश्वर के विचार में ही अचलता से स्थित रहता है, वह परम दीप्तिमान परमात्मा को प्राप्त करता है. He attains the supreme effulgent Lord, O Parth, whose mind, stabilized by yoga, is immovably fixed on the thought of him. Okay. So what is being said here? So 2-3 things have been said here. First is abhyas, yoga abhyas. So the fixing of your mind through the practice of yoga, and stabilizing your mind, not thinking of this and that. Coming to one thought and then surrendering that thought. And the beautiful technique of Hong So that we are taught is for this very purpose, is that you try to eliminate the 100,000 thoughts that are going inside your mind. You bring it to the thought of Hong and So, and you then finally are able to transcend even that thought. So this technique of concentration, which is very common in almost all paths of meditation, where breath control comes in, and where just using the breath to control the mind comes in. This is very, very important, and all of this can be achieved by stabilizing your mind through Hong So, and then going towards other higher meditations like Om and Kriya. Okay. For those now, this is true for the path of Kriya Yoga. Now, there may be others who are not following the path of Kriya Yoga. Maybe they have taken a mantra diksha. Maybe they are practicing Laya Yoga or other forms of yoga. Even for them, eventually the science and the maths remains the same. All the thoughts have to be replaced by one thought, and that's exactly what your mantra is going to do to you, or that's exactly for a bhakti yogi, the name of the Lord is going to do for you. So you replace all the thoughts by the name of the Lord, and then eventually even that chanting has to merge into the silence. So this maths will work with any path of yoga or any path of spirituality that you are following. Okay. So now, Master, it's because Master is a propounder of Kriya Yoga. This is what he says. It is necessary for man to practice a scientific technique such as Kriya Yoga to prevent his mind during meditation from wandering away from the divine ecstasy into the domain of thought and material sensation. Now, this is very beautiful. What does he mean? He's saying, we know that as Kriya Yogis, from the domain of sensations and thoughts, if we are experiencing peace and bliss, we somehow tend to go beyond thought, and we go into that awareness of peace. Now, if you do not practice being in that peace or bliss for a long time, all that's going to happen is again your mind is going to go back into thinking. Your mind and thinking, of course, once a thought begins and you entertain that thought, the associated emotions come. Suppose you're thinking of a past thought, then all the memories will come up, and it is going to take you away tangentially into some direction which you never intended to go. So therefore, regular practice of Kriya Yoga ensures that you have repeated experiences of peace and bliss in yourself, and you are able to stabilize yourself in that peace and bliss. And once you're able to stabilize in that peace and bliss, then God is peace, God is bliss. And at the moment of your passing, if you're able to bring yourself, instead of thinking patterns, you're able to bring yourself to the peace, the calmness, the bliss that you have felt during your meditations, then you will be able to merge in that peace and bliss and joy and wisdom. No, so when Saint Francis of Assisi was passing, and it was like a somber event, and people, his close disciples were around him, and the people were waiting that he give his final sermon, and the people around him were saying that he must say something like profound, something that would go as his final sermon. But all Saint Francis of Assisi said, he says, joy, 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 so much joy. So, and this is in spite of the fact that his physical body had multiple illnesses. But because on a daily basis he had practiced communion with Christ, that at the moment of his passing, he was able to feel Christ's presence as joy within himself, and he was able to merge into that. And these are examples set for us. We are also we have to practice being in that peace and bliss on a daily basis, so that we can have memory of, or we can consciously bring ourselves to that peace, bliss, calmness, or Om, the sound of Om, or light at the moment of passing, and we will merge into that. Okay. So a master continues. He says, as a Kriya Yogi relaxes his life force from the 5 sense telephones, he automatically finds the sensations and thoughts have vanished from his consciousness. Thus freed, his mind becomes magnetized towards the blissful soul and his everlasting communion with spirit. Okay. So practice, practice, practice. We come to now shlokas number 9 and 10. Okay, these are taken together, and these shlokas are a little difficult to recite because they are longer than the other shlokas. So, but let me put in an attempt. 9. Kavim Purana Manusha Sita Ramano Araniya Suman Smared Sarvasya Dhataram Chintya Rupa Aditya Varna Tamasa Parastat. Number 10. Prayan Kale Manasa Chalen Bhaktya Yuk तो योग बलेन चैव भ्रुवोर मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परम पुरुषुमोपैति दिव्यम. इन हिंदी, मृत्यु के क्षण में एक योगी उस परम दीप्तिमान परमात्मा को प्राप्त करता है. यदि भक्ति एवं योग बल से वह अपनी प्राण शक्ति से भ्रू मध्य means third eye, point between the two eyebrows, का पूर्णता भेदन करता है, और यदि वह निश्चलता से उस सत्ता पर अपना ध्यान केंद्रित करता है जो अविद्या के सभी भ्रमों से परे सूर्य के समान दीप्तिमान है, वे जिनका स्वरूप अचिंत्य, सूक्ष्मतम, परमाणु से भी अधिक सूक्ष्म, सबका धारण पोषण करने वाला, सबके नियंता, अनंत और सर्वज्ञ है. In English, at the time of death, a yogi reaches the supreme effulgent Lord if, with love and the power of yoga, he fully penetrates his life force between the eyebrows, the seat of the spiritual eye, and if he fixes his mind unwaveringly on the being who is beyond all delusions of darkness, who shines like the sun, the one whose form is unimaginable, subtler than the finest atom, the supporter of all, the great ruler, eternal and omniscient. Okay, so too many technical terms, but the important thing is the one who can fix his mind at the point between the eyebrows, at the spiritual eye, and penetrate through his prana shakti, can penetrate through the spiritual eye. Now, how are we going to do this at the time of death if we have not practiced doing this while we are living in this body? This body is an extremely powerful instrument. It has a nervous system which allows you to be able to, especially with the help of the guru and the technique like Kriya Yoga, it helps you to raise your prana shakti through your astral spine, to focus at the point between the eyebrows, and to be able to penetrate the spiritual eye. You already have the key to the kingdom. You already have the path that has been shown to you. And the point is to actually walk on the path. Now, just by reading all of this, that okay, if a person does like this, you maybe tomorrow you will tell your relative or a neighbor, you must fix your pointer and you must penetrate it through by taking your prana through that. If you just talk about it, it's of no purpose. But are you yourself trying to do that is the question. Your mukti, your liberation will come when you can take your prana shakti, fix at the point between the eyebrows, and take it beyond the spiritual eye. So start trying now, from today itself. With every meditation, your focus at the spiritual eye should deepen, deepen, deepen till you feel that you're able to mentally go into that zone. Now let's go into the finer details of these two shlokas. And the first, start with kaving. So kavi, as we know in common Hindi, it is a poet is called a kavi, and this whole creation is God's poem in a sense. So the beauty of his creation, his poetry is so beautiful that he is the kavi of this creation. And also kavi is also known as the omniscience of God is also being pointed out with the word kavi. The next explanation of God is this Puranam. Puranam means he is ancient, means he is beginningless. Then the word is used Anushasitaram, means he is the controller of all the worlds. Then Anoraniyam means he is smaller than the atom and he is bigger than the biggest. Then he is Sarvasya Dhata, means he is the source of all sustenance. Then Achintya Rupa, beyond the senses, and he cannot be comprehended by the mind. Now, it is very important for us to understand why God is not, you cannot comprehend him through the mind. There are multiple reasons. Let's start by a simple example. Now, when you are listening to this talk through a device, now the device runs on electricity, but how many times does your mind actually think when listening to a song or a talk? You're not thinking that all of this is happening because there is electricity inside the device that you're using, and that electricity is coming from the charger that you used. The charger actually got the electricity from the circuit of your house. Now that electricity running in the wires of your house, where did that come from? So that came from a transformer in your locality. But from where did that receive electricity? So that power which is running your device is actually, if you trace it back, that electricity in the local transformer came from a bigger transformer through thick wires. Now, where did electricity come from in that? That also received electricity from a bigger powerhouse, which was, some miles away and through thick wires. Now, where did that powerhouse receive electricity? And let us assume that it received electricity from a nuclear power station. So the fission or the fusion reactions between uranium and plutonium is what created the heat, which created the turbines to move, and electricity was generated. And then who created the uranium and the plutonium? They were already present in Earth. And who created the Earth? The Earth is part of the solar system, and the solar system is part of a galaxy, and there are trillion galaxies and there are trillion multiverses. It is unending. Who created those multiverses? It is eventually the creator. So when we are just looking at this device, our mind cannot comprehend the vastness of the infinite and the series of things that are happening to actually make your daily life possible. Our mind is limited in its thought. Why limited? Because it is being fed fed by the senses, and the senses are very, very, very limited. And therefore, with that limited mind, we cannot comprehend the entirety of God. The other reason why the mind cannot comprehend God is because the mind comprehends objects or things. It always looks for to label something. So it knows this is a table, this is a chair, okay, no, this is a room, this is a building, this is a train, this is an aeroplane, this is the sky, this is the tree. So this is how, the mind works. But God is not any object which you can think of. God is the subjective awareness in you itself. And therefore, the mind and the intellect are incapable of understanding the infinite. But yet, the love that is in your heart. Now, love is infinite. It has no boundaries. It has no mathematical formula. It is a feeling, and not just a feeling, I would say. Love is the basis of the substance of the universe. Love can help you to experience God. Your mind and intellect cannot. So here, what is mentioned in this verse is achintya, means you cannot think your way to God. And then he says, Aditya Varna, he is like light. His light illumines the sun. The sun, we think sun is the source of light on earth, but who illuminates the sun? That is God. This is Aditya Varna. And is Tamasa Parastal. He is beyond the darkness of ignorance. Then the next shloka is Prayan Kale. So Prayan is travel. Kale means time. So at the time when you travel from this earthly sphere to the astral sphere or into moksha, during that time, so then he says, the teachings say that just as a man secures all necessary things before he starts to travel, even so he should provide himself with all the best qualities before he leaves the body. Now ask yourself, what are you packing for your death? Now, for your death means none of us is going to die as the soul. The bodies are going to die. Okay. So, but your journey will continue, whether it is in the astral sphere or maybe directly causal or maybe directly moksha. How are you planning to go across this transition from life to not having the physical body? Are you preparing yourself? And what is it you are collecting? If you're just collecting money, that is going to be here. Property will remain here. Gold will remain here. All your bonds will remain here. All your family, which you think is yours, will remain here. All your friends will remain here. Situations of this life will remain here. What is it you will carry? You will carry your own karma. You will carry your own attitudes. If you have practiced the presence of God, that is the most important thing that you will carry with you. If you have practiced being in peace in the peace of God, in the bliss of God, that is what you will carry. If you have practiced loving yourself and everybody else and loving God, that is what you're going to carry forward. So be careful about what you are collecting each day of your life, because that is the baggage that is going to go with you when the day of judgment comes, and we do not know when that exam is going to come. And that is why we have to be prepared all the time. We have to be vigilant with every breath. Okay. Thus, during the last moments, man should contemplate about the Paramatman with bhakti and yoga. So this is very, very beautiful. Master says, so he says, in this 3 qualifications have been given to us. First is the love of God. Second is mastery of Kriya Yoga, by which we can usher his consciousness into the infinite through the agency of the single eye in the forehead. And third, perfect control of the mind, which is made possible through the constancy in yoga that enables him to place his thought undeviatingly on the Lord at the time of death, an hour whose finality is always known to the true yogi. So true yogis know in advance when they are going to leave the body. We have examples of Sri Yukteswarji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Master, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda, Ramana Maharishi. All of these people knew when they are going to pass away. But for most of us, we have no idea when death will come knocking at our door. And therefore, are we preparing ourselves? The gist of this shloka again, are we preparing ourselves to focus at the point between the eyebrows, the third eye chakra? Are we working with love, and are we able to control our mind and our prana? all the yoga practices that we have been given are capable of leading us into this direction. But are we using the key or not? Now, people may have been initiated into Kriya Yoga but not practicing. What use is it going to be? If you have been, if you learn meditation from one place, then another place, then third place, then fourth place, then you're window shopping with meditation, how is it going to help you? Is it going to help you at the time of passing? No. So once you have found your true guru, then you must fix yourself into firmly, steadfastly practicing what he has given to each one of you, each one of us. And if we do that, then we have been promised. If we are loyal to a path, if we are sincerely seeking God, then clearly he is saying that then you can become one with me. Okay. So we'll do one more shloka for today. This is shloka number 11. Yadaksharam vedo vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitarag yadichanto brahmacharya charanti tate padam sangrahena pravakshe. वह जिसे वैदिक ऋषि अविनाशी कहते हैं, जिसे आसक्ति रहित सन्यासी प्राप्त करते हैं, जिसको प्राप्त करने के लिए वे आत्म अनुशासन का जीवन जीते हैं, उसे प्राप्त करने की विधि मैं तुम्हें संक्षेप में कहूंगा. That which the Vedic seers declare as the immutable, that which is gained by renunciance of vanished attachments, desiring which they lead a life of self-discipline, the method for attaining that I will relate to thee in brief. So when Krishna says to Arjuna that I will relate to you this method in brief, and we are reading the Gita here, so he is saying directly to us that all that is written in the Vedas, all that the gurus and the saints advise, all of that I am going to tell you in brief. And this is beautiful. So basically, from shloka number 12 onwards, Krishna is clearly, he prepares the path and he tells exactly. So this verse kind of acts like a bridge. From before this shlok, he has said the basic theory of it. And then from after this verse, he will tell the exact methods of how we are going to do that. Although in chapter number 6, he has already explained how to sit for meditation, why to meditate, where to focus, where to keep your hands, even your chin, even your eyes. Everything has been taught already in chapter number 6. But then he's again, saying that I will tell you in detail. So in brief, he says, but actually everything is been given in detail. Okay. So a very important thing that actually comes here, and he says that this state is attained by those who practice austerity. This is also attained those who control their mind, who are of pure heart, and those who practice brahmacharya. So when we say brahmacharya, and although it is considered as a control of sexuality, but actually brahmacharya is an acharan which is in sync with Brahman, and this includes control of all the senses. So we be moderate with all the senses, and one who moves self-controlled, untainted, not having too many likes and dislikes, not jumping out with desires and attachments, one who can keep his consciousness centered, one who can control his prana, then that person will be qualified enough to try what Krishna is going to give. And that's what he's saying here. He says, the knowers of Veda, they know after a great deal of contemplation and meditation, they come to the highest goal, which is Aksharam or Brahman. And Aksharam is another name for a Brahman, and the literal meaning of Brahman is the vast infinite. The vastness is called Brahman. And Aksharam is also, the Om is also known as Aksharam. And in the next shloka, Krishna explains that how Om is the same as Brahman, and how by uniting or chanting, listening, and uniting yourself with Om, you can become liberated. But we will deal with all of this in greater detail in our next class. And for today, again, we remember what Krishna is telling us. He is saying that prepare yourself, prepare your path to the final moment from right now on, with non-attachment, with practice, with the natural love of the heart. Surrender your mind and intellect to me. Focus at the Agya Chakra. Focus at the spiritual life. Concentrate all the energies that you have, your prana and your mind, your attention, and give me your all. And you will be liberated and you will merge in my being. Now, this is the promise of Krishna. And we should just hold on to that. And we should know that the scripture cannot be falsified. If Krishna has promised this to us, and if we try, again, God does not mind our faults. He does not mind that we make mistakes, but He does mind if we are indifferent. In spite of having listened to these highest teaching, if we still remain indifferent to them, and if we still do not bother and forget the giver of this life and not do what He has asked us, then the problem is ours. We will have to further face more trials and tribulations and more births and rebirths. But let us determine today that, we are willing to go towards the highest bliss of our own soul, which is Krishna Himself. And we are willing to let go these little petty things of this world, the little attachments, the I, me, mine of this world. And only when we let go the little petty things will we be able to understand the highest bliss, which is always available to us. It's just that we haven't focused ourselves enough. We haven't loved enough. And if we do that, we will attain Krishna right now, right here, wherever He has put us. We are to think of Him and we have to fight the battle of life from right here, right now. So with that thought, we will just share the power and blessings of these teachings with souls everywhere. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, beloved Krishna, Thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all Thy children. Manifest Thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Divine Mother, beloved Krishna, great Gurus, may Thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken Thy love in all true hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.